We've got a couple projects today, and I didn't know this was a project until a few minutes ago. We're planning on getting rid of this vehicle, and it's got a share of problems. Mostly there's an oil leak on the engine, and it gets everywhere. And then the other thing is it has this tendency to chew through tires. So we just want to get rid of it. But here's the deal. I figured maybe if somebody was going to fix it, because I mean it still runs and drives. What happened was the driver's side window, I came out one day and it was just down. And anyway, so I went through and I ordered another one of these, and a regulator. So I put this one in, and as you can see, other than it being a little bit noisy up at the top, it works just fine. Then I came out today, and that one's broken. So I don't know what the deal is. I don't know if just they're old and the plastic got brittle. But anyways, it's doing the same thing as the other one was doing, which is basically you can kind of hear it, but it doesn't seem to be moving. And this was most certainly in the up position. So something's broken with it. Here's the deal. When I went to order these, I was going through a bunch of different sites, and I accidentally ordered the passenger side. So I already have one of these. I was going to return it, but now that this is broken, I can't see any reason for doing that. One thing to be very clear about, when you're looking at a vehicle, don't think about it as the vehicle. Think about it as you are sitting in the vehicle. This is the right-hand side, and this is the left-hand side. So that's the left hand, and that's the right hand. So just think about it from your perspective as you're sitting in the vehicle. Left hand, right hand. And that'll save you some grief, because a lot of times people look at it like, wait, is it driver's side or passenger side? Just keep in mind that the right-hand side is the passenger side. Very first thing that we are going to do is we are going to end up pulling this panel off to get to it. And like I said, I already have another window regulator. They can be expensive if you go and buy them like through an auto parts store. I just bought mine through Amazon, and it was around a little over $40. It was under $45. So I'm going to show you how easy this is. If this happens to you, if you want to go and take this to a dealership or something else, this could easily be anywhere from $200 to $500 for them to fix this window. So I wouldn't go that route, especially for a vehicle that's not worth much money. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to grab a Phillips screwdriver. Pull this cover off. And this one's got a bevel edge on this, so just remember the bevel one goes in there. And then there's another one in the cup. This is more of a pan head. Okay, so pull these two out, and then the next thing we want to do is there's a couple things on here. This piece right here is literally, it just pulls off, and it wasn't supposed to come out like that. This part's supposed to pop out. I don't think it's broken. Shove it back in. All right, so this thing has got a little, it's got a little latch in here. It's really hard to get to. All right, so there's this little lever in here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab a screwdriver. I'm pulling it out, and I'm going to pull it up. Now, this is going to be a lot easier to do with pliers down the road. Now that I'm pulling out, I didn't break this, but I can see that it's broken. So if I was going to keep this car, I would replace this piece as well. I'm sure they're not expensive. But anyways, that's pretty much it. Now the rest of it's just little clips electrically. But basically, just grab your fingers behind here and just kind of start popping it out. Okay, and then it just lifts up. Now, again, there's an electrical connection right here, and I'm just going to reach in, cut. So there's a little release right here, and I'm just going to grab the release. Easier said than done. So the electrical's got a little clip in here, and it's kind of not so easy to get to. But anyways, I ended up just pushing it in. You can just grab this and push it off to the side. So I've found that it's easier just to take this piece out. And the reason for that is this has got this plastic cover on here and it's just kind of hard to work around. So I'm just going to take this off so we can peel it back a little bit easier. All right, so this is a sticky mess, right? It's just like tar, so it'll get on your clothes, I'm sure, if you're not careful. But I'm just gonna grab a hold of it and peel it to get it out of my way. Otherwise, I won't be able to get to the regulator. Now, if you were troubleshooting this, you're gonna have to do this anyways, right, to see what's going on. But this is my first time looking at it, but I can already tell that it's broken. So all we're gonna do at this point, this is the electric motor. So I'm gonna push on here and disconnect it. And then this cable, it fits inside here. So I think maybe one of the easiest things is if you can get the top side out. Right, so I got it compressed right there. And then maybe you can come in from the inside with your fingers, possibly, and push it in, or a screwdriver. There we go. So I just came in and pushed on it from this side. Anyways, that's all the electrical. And the rest of it, it's basically, there's some bolts that are holding the window to the track. And then there's the motor and the regulator, which are these 3 bolts. And if I'm not mistaken, they're 10 millimeters. Some of the newer ones have studs, the other ones have bolts that go in. Just keep all your hardware. And then the other thing is, there's another 4 bolts right here. So this piece has got to come out, and then the motor, and it's got some cables and stuff which go to it, but since they're broken, there's 7 bolts. Motor, and then this, and then on the inside where it's being held on the track, there's another 2 screws right here. So if you can see them, you have to be able to get the window up, and right now the motor is kind of giving me some grief. But anyways, especially when this is loose, you're gonna have to take these 2 Phillips screws out, and that's what connects it to the window. So you probably want a buddy for this to hold the window up as you're working with your regulator.
Action.
All right, so if you want to identify these right and left, just look at it. The motor obviously is going to go towards the front of the car, whether this is right or left. And as far as this is concerned, the window is going to be on the back side. It wouldn't make any sense. And also here's the mounting hardware, right? So easily to identify the window. So regarding these 7 bolts, I have a nut driver, but if you go to break them loose, use a wrench, because it's going to be really hard to break them loose. And then I'm just going to use a nut driver to take all the hardware out. Now the window's already fallen all the way down, so I'm not too worried about it. It can only come down like maybe an inch. I'm just going to spin it out. I got my hand in here just in case it does. So I'm holding the window. So it didn't fall very much. The thing that's interesting about this one is this one actually uses bolts, and this other one has basically got studs. So it comes with its own bag of nuts to replace these, so some of the hardware is not going to be used.
Action.
Same goes for the motor. I don't want to break the glass clearly, so I'm trying to be careful with this. Pull the motor down, and it'll get away from you. Right? I'm going to pull it towards the track, and then as far as the track is concerned, this thing is still, I didn't get the window separated, but now, as you can see, it's kind of free floating. So I'm going to take these screws loose and separate the track from the window. too. All right, so I'm going to let this window down, I think, if I can. But clearly there's stuff in the way. So this is why it helps to have maybe a second hand actually holding the window up out of the way, because right now it fell completely out of the track. All right, so that's odd. All right, so here is the broken window regulator. I'm going to bring this down and just set it down. If you're not careful, it'll fall right out of the track. So that's down. And so what happened is this piece right here is supposed to be around this loop like this. So in all honesty, I probably could just put this back in, but I'm looking at the rest of this, and this piece right here, this is not right. So I'm just going to replace it. So I'm going to grab this one. Again, it's a little bit different design because they have studs instead of basically bolt holes in here. So it's going to go just in like this. So this is still the same deal. This window is kind of in the way, and if you have a buddy to help pull it up out of the way, that is probably the best option, because if this thing slips out of your fingers and you destroy it, I'm pretty sure the glass is not cheap. All right, so I'm going to put my hand right here, and that's going to kind of hold it, or I could maybe put a block or something, but either way, it would be best to have a human hand, I think. All right, so lock this in here as best I can. Bring this all the way up. Okay, so for the most part, this track is in, and at which point I'm going to go ahead and grab these bolts, or these nuts I should say, and I'm going to put them in place. Now, one of the problems is the window track is all the way in the up position, so I can't actually get to those screws without bringing it down, which clearly poses a problem. So I'm going to go ahead and get these started. And then snug them up. I'm going to tighten these with a wrench, but I'm going to get them started with this nut driver. Again, it's a 10 millimeter. The other thing to consider is this motor. So I'm going to use the 3 existing nuts. Now the window is just sitting on top of here, it's not connected, so there's a potential for you breaking it. Which clearly this is what we do not want to have happen. Alright, so if you're wondering what we do, in this case, clearly we need to bring it down so I can get access to this hardware. So what I'm going to do is all right, so just grab your fingers and push it in, and now the switch is available. So I need to plug in the motor, and I'm going to plug in the switch. So I'm going to go ahead and just plug in the switch, and while I'm at it, I'm just going to hook up the motor and latch in place like it was. And now one of the things is the key's got to be on. So there's no moving parts up here other than the window, right? And if I hold it from this side, it can tip forward, but if I hold it from this side, and this portion of it can't. So I'm gonna bring it down, and then I'm gonna slide my window down. This would have been much easier with 2 people. But as you can see, there's my 2 bolt holes, and I'm just lining them up in place. I still have a hold of it, and then I'm going to use these large screws. Before I snug these completely up, I kind of want to run them through their paces. Because bottom line is there is a little bit of play in here, right? See how the window can move? And if we don't get it lined up correctly, it's going to start binding up. So I'm going to tip it back into this channel like this. I think you guys could hear how it was kind of binding. All right, I think that's it. Like I said, grab a hold of it like this, and I'm going to snug it up with it in the back of the channel. Okay. All right, that looks like we got it. So at this point, now it's just a matter of tightening up these bolts. Again, there's 7 of them. And then, since I'm done with this, I'm going to disconnect this. And then I'm going to start putting it back together. So this is the piece that the cup and the door handle actually mounts to. Give it a little bit of rigidity. Okay, now we got the cover back on. So again, grab the electrical, make sure it comes through here because we're going to need to hook that up. Or if you wanted, you could just hook it up now, but I would say it's better to do it later. Drop it through the hole, make sure that it's sitting in here. Like this is coming loose a little bit. I just want to make sure that it's in place. And then at which point you're just going to grab a hold of it and kind of just start snapping it in place. So that didn't take much. Alright, so we're in place. Grab my little window switch, plug it back in. It might have been better to do this beforehand, but realistically there's nothing to it, right? So I got my little rod out here, and last thing I'm going to do as far as the trim is concerned, snap this into place. And now there's just basically the hardware for this. So again, I'm going to use a pan head or a truss style, and just drop it in here. Tighten that up. And then the only other thing that I have is this. So this is broken, and these aren't that much money. I'm not sure how it got broken, but they're supposed to slide in place here. And either way, it's kind of not on the docket for what I want to fix today. Easy way I found to do this is grab a hold of the rod with the needle nose pliers. So easiest way is to make sure that's on the other side, and just gonna try and drop it in, and then basically this is the easiest to do with a screwdriver. And snap it in place. And again, these are broken. What I'd end up doing is I'd grab a hold of these and slide it in place like this, but they're broken, so I can do it as a screw. And then the last piece, again, if this wasn't broken, I'd just basically slide it back in place. And I'm gonna hold it with one screw. So this is one screw holding it versus 3 points. But that's it. So it didn't take that long.